What's up, duelists? I'm back. It's been a couple days. I had some stuff, some IRL stuff I had to take care of, but I'm back with some heat for you guys. Some Nats testing, some tournament announcements, some everything. First things first, this upcoming weekend, July 1st and 2nd, is online RBET. I think it's the third one of this season, third online one of the season. If you guys want to play in that, it's free to enter. It's going to be held in the really big Yu-Gi-Oh Discord, which there's a link to in the description below. So, without further ado, let's get into what this is. Oh, wait. That's cap. There's one more announcement. The Crow's Nest, Yu-Gi-Oh, Retro Yu-Gi-Oh. They're like a team that plays Edison. They host the Deck Devastators tournaments in the EdisonFormat.com Discord. They're almost at 1,000 subscribers. They make banger content on Edison format. If you want to check it out, go check it out. Help them get to 1,000 so they can get that sweet ad revenue. That'd be really great, you guys. Plus, you can check out their footage from the Deck Devastators tournament that happened this weekend. So, yeah, definitely go check that out. Okay, for today's video, I am playing Fairies. I'm testing for Nats, of course. That's coming up July 7th, 8th, and 9th. If you guys want to get in your testing for that, I mean, this weekend's tournament, online RBET, is going to be the perfect place to do it. Of course, I have pretty much settled on bringing Fairies. I've tested a lot of other decks, and the deck that has the best win percentage for me personally is Dragons. And I made a members only video on Dragons yesterday. If you guys want to become a member for $2.99, you can watch the Dragon video I uploaded yesterday for members. But that deck, I've played it a lot. I have a lot of mileage with that deck. I kind of want to do something with this deck. So in this video, I'm going to show you a replay of my own, and I'm going to show you a replay of someone else's that showcases a concept that I kind of want to talk about. This is a list that I'm pretty happy with. This is a list that does get absolutely owned by Deck Devastation Virus. But, you know, sometimes you just got to go in saying they're not going to draw it. And that's pretty much what this list is saying. There's no real great way to side in and out cards. There's just a billion targets for it. We have the full 5 recruiters. We have triple Dialk, triple Warrior Lady. I think Dialk is actually just like the reason to play this deck. This card is so good. It lets you overextend, lets you commit into stuff belligerently. It makes your Torrential even better, which is like one of the best cards in this deck. We got Card Trooper, we got Thunder Kings, we got Raikos. I've been playing these cards a lot lately. I'm pretty happy with Thunder King into Hero Beat, and I'm pretty happy with it into Blackwings and Zombies as well. It's not great in the mirror, but it can at least negate Christia, like, in some positions. So it's like, you're obviously siding it out in the mirror, but it's still decent, and it's pretty good against Lightsworn too, and Dragons as well. So it's one of the cards that I think is like pretty well positioned. Not a lot of people are setting Hamster, setting Raikou right now. A lot of people are like summoning stuff, trying to search stuff, activate Stratos, etc. So this card's great, and of course against Synchro Summons it's great. Sideboard is pretty straightforward. The one big change is I've cut one Mask of Restrict for one Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer. So with 2 Compulsory Evacuation Device, and I'm also citing the Solemn Judgment. That's another thing. I found this card was too, oftentimes it was just a 4,000 life point trap hole, which I was not happy with. So I ended up just cutting it because I don't want to pay 4,000 life points for a trap hole game 1. Against Frogs, it's going to come in, and against some other decks, it's going to come in, but it's mostly there for Frogs. And I figured, like, if it's bad against Blackwings, it's not great against Hero Beat. It's not really stopping anything that I like really care about. That's not owning. I mean, like, stopping Spark is great, obviously, but sometimes it's okay to just like instead have a chainable back row as opposed to paying 4,000 life points, because sometimes they'll take that -1 just to deal 4,000 damage to you. Like, I'd be happy with that as well. So I think this card in a very aggressive meta, like that's what's happening right now, I think it's better off in your sideboard in Fairies, especially because you want to be able to crash your guys, and you're going to have return as well. There's just too many things that need you to take damage, Gores, etc., DD Warrior Lady crashing, leaving your board open for like Herald of Orange Light, etc. That Solemn Judgment is just too much of a liability, and it was losing me so many games, so I moved it to this side. Other stuff, Double Breaker, triple Dust Tornado, just for Light Mirror. I keep losing to Light Mirror. It's like the only card I lose to with this deck. I actually don't even lose to Deck Dev as much, because sometimes I'll just have Christia after they Deck Dev me, and I'm fine. So it's like, Deck Dev, it's not the end of the world. It does suck, but like, sometimes you just have to expect it, and then Light Mirror is really the lights out card. That's the card that shuts off everything, and then it shuts off everything forever. Like, it's not like Deck Dev where like you can get out of it with Christia, you can get out of it. You really can't get out of Light Mirror with this deck. There's just not a great way. So you got to have at least 7 outs to it post board, which is the Storm, the Typhoon, and the 2 Breakers and the Triple Deaths. The match I'm going to show you is up against the Magical Librarian, who is playing a brand new Diva Zombie list that's been going around that has Ultimate Offering in it. This list is terrifying because it can actually kill you with no monsters in play, unlike the previous Diva Zombie decks. So you'll see what's up. We lose the die roll, which always sucks, but we have a lot of interactive pieces that can sort of bridge the gap. So the story of this video that I kind of want to get across, or like one of the main points, is like when to use this card right here, Torrential Tribute. This card, I've seen so many players misplay with it. The bonus replay I have at the end of this, it showcases a misplay with Torrential Tribute that I really want to like isolate and focus on, because I feel like if you learn how to use this card, not only does it improve like so many matchups, but improves your play into so many matchups as well. Once you know how to play this card, you're better against zombies, you're better against frogs, you're better against a lot of different decks. So it's important to know when to play this card. So he sets 2 and he passes a turn. So I know the zombie decks lately have been playing Ultimate Offering. They've been playing both Starlight Road and Legacy of Yatagarasu. So it's really hard to know if they set 2, if they have Legacy, or if they have Starlight Road. I pick up Dialk, which is the perfect draw. This is exactly why you want to play 3, because I think the way this deck wins more often than not is just DD Warrior Lady Dialk looping. And you run your opponent low on resources, and then the Dialks kind of like pressure them through their sweepers. So yeah, I summon DD Warrior Lady, I get bottomless, I chain book, and I'm like, okay, because it was bottomless set next to it, and he fired it off, he shotgunned it, there's a chance that the other back row is Legacy. That's what I'm thinking right now. Anyway, I book the DD Warrior Lady, or I'm not thinking it right now, but that's what I end up thinking in a minute, once I figure out it's zombies. Because he used the bottomless, this tells me a lot of information. So I summon DD Warrior Lady, he uses the bottomless. Because he uses the bottomless, it tells me the set isn't Raikou, and it isn't Hamster. Because if it was Raikou or Hamster, you wouldn't use your bottomless there, you would save it for later. Because he used the bottomless, it means that his set monster is a battle recruiter, or it's a goblin zombie or a Sangan or a dandelion. Because they wanted to get rid of the DD Warrior Lady. They don't want me to banish their monster. That's basically what they're telling me by making this play. That's why I used the Book of Moon to save it, because I'm like, okay, if they have a Raikou, I can trade my Book of Moon for Bottomless Trap Hole. And this is how you use Book of Moon in this matchup a lot too. Or not just in this matchup, but in this deck a lot too. Is you're oftentimes using it as like extra copies of Space Typhoon. You trade it with Bottomless, you trade it with Deep Prison, you trade it with Mirror Force. That's what you want to do to like make sure and stick your position, basically, yeah. So yeah, they sack their Mystic Tomato. They're basically forced to do this because now they have no out to the DD Warrior Lady. And because they have no out to the DD Warrior Lady, it confirms that their back row is not actually Torrential Tribute. So now I know their back row is not Torrential Tribute, and I know it might be Solemn, but it's unlikely. It's probably still Road or Legacy, or a Chainable, because they set 2 turn 1. Either that or their hands full of back row, but yeah. They go ahead and use Caius. They target the DD Warrior Lady. I chain bottomless. I take my 2 for 2. I think that this is okay. Actually, it's kind of ideal because I have the initiative now, and I have a monster banished for my Dialk, which is great. So here I summon Dialk. I activate. I banish Brain Control. I miss once, which is kind of unfortunate. It's pretty unlucky. In this list, we have 25 monsters, so... And especially after we've already seen, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spell and traps. Banishing a 6th is really unlucky. We hit for 1800. Set 2 and pass. He sets a monster and passes. We pick up our own Legacy. I activate Dialk again, and I miss again, which is really unfortunate. But at the same time, I'm not super upset about this because I actually need to hit my engine. I need to hit my Shining Angels. I need to hit my Christias in order to play this game. So the way you want to attack here, or the way you want to play this here, is you want to attack with Dialk, even though it is going to give them access to like a potential Pyramid Turtle or Mystic Tomato search. It's better to attack and just get them to use whatever it is they're going to search and then fight through it, basically. The way I see it is like if I attack into this and it's a Goblin Zombie, it's better that I attacked into it because if he draws another Caius, I'm kind of owned. Because he'll go sack, Goblin Zombie 1, Caius 2, and then I'll have to Torrential 3. Either that or I could use my book. I might use my book. I don't know. It doesn't fight. We'll figure it out. Either way, I'm losing my Dialk for no value, which kind of sucks. So we attack into it. We have to attack into it because if it's a Goblin Zombie, we lose super hard to the next Caius. And if it's a Battle Recruiter, the stuff they're getting is functionally the same as that Battle Recruiter anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. They grab Goblin Zombie, so I'm like, okay, maybe they have a Synchro Play, maybe they have something like that. I go ahead and set 2 because next turn there's a chance I hit a monster and I actually want to return both back. There's a chance. It's not a big chance, but there's a chance. So he goes ahead and summons Plague. And so now he has a couple of options. He can go Bionic, but then if we have Bottomless, like he gets owned, he can go Revive King, which is very good because we have no cards in hand, so we're not representing Honest. He's going to go Revive King here. He's going to make, or he's going to use the Goblin Zombie to search, and he's going to grab Zombie Master. So that tells me he either doesn't want Mizuki, he already has Mizuki, or he wants to use the Zombie Master to pitch a dead card in his hand. I'm not really sure why you would want to search Zombie Master into 4 back row if you don't already have Mizuki. Does he have Mizuki? He does not. Yeah, usually you want to search Mizuki here. from his perspective. But either way is fine. Anyway, he goes Revive King attack. We book the Revive King. So the reason we didn't Torrential here is because when he synchros, if you get the Goblin Zombie effect on the Synchro Summon, that becomes Chainlink 1, and Torrential would be Chainlink 2, and then we wouldn't get the Dimensional Alchemist effect because it would miss timing. So, yeah. I guess I should do a brief explanation on, like, missing timing. If this card is... If the conditions are met, Chainlink 2 or higher, or in the middle of an effect that has sequential resolution, then it won't resolve or even activate, which is... It's... Oh, God, it's so... I'm going to make a video on it. I'll make a video on it. You guys, it misses the timing, all right? I'm just... you get it. I'm going to book the Revive King because I want to make sure my Torrential Dialk happens. So I book the Revive King. He passes the turn after setting another back row. We go Dialk activate, banish another Dialk, which is excellent for our return. We pick up Christia, which makes me very happy. So another reason Dialk is so good in this deck is because you're functionally seeing 2 cards every turn. It's kind of like a very jank... I don't know if you guys play Magic the Gathering, but there's a card in Magic the Gathering called Phyrexian Arena. And Phyrexian Arena, basically what it says is you pay 1 life point every turn, and then you draw a card, an extra card every turn. In Magic, life points there's not very many of them, so 1 life point is kind of a lot, but functionally Dialk is like Phyrexian Arena in this deck. He makes it so you see almost twice the amount of cards that you would normally see in a game, and he significantly boosts the consistency of the deck, particularly when drawn in multiples. So that's why I'm back up to 3. I know a lot of players have cut it down to 1, cut it down to 0, whatever. I actually think it is super, super important to play 3 of this card. I'm sick of playing less than 3. If I get owned by deck dev, I get owned by deck dev. What can you do? But I am definitely going to be playing 3 of this card moving forward in these types of lists. Anyway, I attack into the set monster again because we know it's Revive King. I activate Legacy main phase 2. So the reason I activate it is because I want to find a trap card, like a bottomless or a compulsory or something, in case he has like... I don't know. I also want to find my Typhoon in case he has Call of the Haunted set. Because Call of the Haunted does beat us here. Anything that brings back Revive King, Book of Life, Call of the Haunted, etc. does beat us. And then on top of that, it'd also be kind of nice to draw into a Herald here so we could just have that extra insurance or an Honest. So we draw a card and we actually do find the Typhoon, which is amazing. So that's like really, really lucky that I did that. And also sometimes, again, like... people will hold their legacy for a very long time, like for the next game, basically. But in this match, I think it's important to know when to use your legacies. When you play this card, sometimes you have to just say, okay, I just need to draw 1 so I can see more pieces of interaction to secure my position, basically. And then sometimes you're like, okay, I don't have to activate this yet, I can wait. Knowing that, it's pretty key if you're going to play this card. I think that's the biggest takeaway from playing this card. If you wait too long, it sets you too far behind. If you do it too soon, you don't get the advantage of like chaining it to stuff. So you have to read the position a lot better in order to use this card to its fullest potential. We pass the turn. He goes Zombie Master, Priority Activate. And this is actually a very smart play from him because it plays around Torrential. So he goes Priority Activate Zombie Master. If we chain Torrential, once again, our Dialk will miss timing. So he pitches Tragodia. He's able to bring out the Goblin Zombie. And then, unfortunately for us, he does have that Starlight Road that we predicted it could possibly be. So I go for the Torrential on the summon of the Goblin Zombie. He goes for Starlight Road. I chain Typhoon on my own Torrential so he doesn't get the Stardust. So the reason I do this, even though this Typhoon is high value, is I figured, okay, he can attack over my Dialk. I'll add back either another Dialk or a DD Warrior Lady. That's fine. I can Dialk, set up for a big return Christia play, and that'll probably be enough to win me the game. But it's not going to be enough to win me the game if he has too much damage on this turn, and then also has Brain Control to take my Christia for the last few points of damage. So I'm thinking, okay, the way I win this game is don't take too much damage, resolve the big return Christia play, and then go from there. That's the way I win this game. The way I lose this game is he gets the Stardust right now, he deals me a bunch of damage, and then he has Brain Control for the Christia turn. So I think, okay, I can't let him get the Stardust here. I can only take a little bit of damage, but I should be okay if I only take a little bit of damage. He starts to get really aggressive, so he goes Stack for Plague. Again, he has a huge like setup here basically, and he also has Mind Control, so he blows his whole hand to get in that extra damage. So you can see the value of cutting off that Stardust is huge here, because I would have had to defensively return. I would have had to like whatever. You get the idea. The way I was losing was I was getting OTK'd, and I needed to not get OTK'd with that Stardust Dragon there. So yeah, he Mind Controls the Dialk. he doesn't activate the Dialk. So for him not activating the Dialk, that confirms to me that he likes the top card of his deck. It confirms that that card is good. It also confirms to me that it's not a monster. And it also confirms to me that his back row is not returned. So that's 3 pieces of information I got from him not activating the Dialk there. He synchros into Flamvel Urukizis. He attacks me for 1100. He mills a fairy, which is pretty good for us because I did not want to draw that Honest. It's actually, we'll get into the sideboard section. It's actually one of the cards I side out in this matchup. He attacks for 1800, and then he attacks for 2100. So we take a shitload of damage. But again, we still have enough life total. If there was a Stardust here, we would not have been able to come back into this game. We would have returned. We would have been forced to double tribute for Christia, and he would have had the bottomless to close things out. As it stands right now, we can return for our 2 monsters, and we can actually stabilize this board straight up. So yeah, we draw Legacy of Yada. Unfortunate to draw it when you're in a behind position, but maybe we can make something work. We go ahead and return, bring back the monsters, activate Dialk, try to get something in the banish, and we get Shining Angel. So this is a huge moment for us because if we didn't hit a monster there, we missed twice, we hit twice, I think. No, we hit once. Yeah, we missed twice and we hit once, but we hit when it mattered, and that's really what matters. With Dialk, if you get a large volume of activations, you're eventually going to hit just because you play so many monsters, and it's one of the best hits in Shining Angel. So yeah, we go ahead and attack into the Urukizis. He doesn't bottomless his DD Warrior Lady. He figures that it's better to trade with the Urukizis. But if I was him, I actually would have definitely bottomless this DD Warrior Lady, because then I'm forced to crash into Zombie Master, and then I add back the DD Warrior Lady. I have to set the DD Warrior Lady. He pierces over for 500, and he attacks with the Goblin Zombie for game. So the opponent kind of missed a lethal setup here. Of course, that banks on me not having any cards in my hand to play into this bottomless. So he made a conservative play, and I think that ended up costing him. Then again, the conservative play is the better play if any of my hand is active. So he doesn't know that my hand is inactive, and most of the fairy deck is active. So, I mean, yeah, he ends up losing his Urukizis. We banish it for 500, or for 900 damage, actually quite a bit of damage, but we still have life points, and that's what matters. And that's why we use the Typhoon on the Torrential to play around the Starlight Road. The reason that works, I didn't explain that actually, is Starlight Road has to destroy the card to summon the Stardust. So if I chain Typhoon to Starlight Road to destroy my own Torrential, the Torrential will still be negated by Starlight Road, but because it wasn't destroyed by Starlight Road, they don't get to summon the Stardust. The way it's worded, it says destroy that card, then you can special summon. But because this part didn't happen, this part cannot happen. So yeah, we crash into Zombie Master, we grab back Shining Angel, and yeah, we did do a lot of stuff, but he stacked his deck last turn, so I don't think it's Book of Life. I actually think it's a defensive trap. So what I'm going to try to do is, in the case that it's Caius, I'm going to draw phase Legacy of Yata-Garasu, try to draw into Herald to protect myself from Caius. I do that. I don't draw into Herald. I draw into DD Warrior Lady. But the idea is to make the right play, and even though we missed on the second Legacy of Yata-Garasu, it's still important to make those correct plays and understand why you need to do it there. Goblin Zombie attacks into Shining Angel. Shining Angel activates, special summons out a second copy of DD Warrior Lady. So now I'm like, okay, he hasn't used anything up until this point. The new back row is probably D-Prison because that's a card that he wouldn't want to banish with the Dialk. It's like a decent card to draw off the top. It's not like a dead card like a Legacy of Yata that he would want to banish with Dialk. So I pick up the Herald of Orange a turn later, but actually very good for us to pick it up here. I decide I'm going to go to the battle phase and attack with DD Warrior Lady first before summoning the Christia. The reason I want to do this is because A, it plays around Torrential Tribute. He hasn't used Torrential Tribute yet this game, so there's a good chance he has it. I want to get this Goblin Zombie banished before I special Christia and then run into a Torrential, basically. And then on top of that, it also plays around Mirror Force. I don't want to have to special my Christia in defense. And then on top of that, it baits D-Prison. It conceals information. It says, okay, banish my DD Warrior Lady. He doesn't know I have another one. He doesn't know I have a Christia. So I attack. He goes D-Prison, banishes my DD Warrior Lady. Huge bait for us. We special the Christia. He bottomlesses before we even get a chance to target. So this is a huge misplay from him because it totally changes what we want to grab back. I mean, either way, we're pretty much forced into setting DD Warrior Lady here and holding up Herald in case he has some sort of effect. Either a Caius or a Dark Armed. No, not a Dark. He can't Dark Armed. We basically have to hold up Herald. So whatever fairy we add back, we have to hold in our hands. But there's a chance I would have grabbed back like Honest or something if he had waited for me to declare target. So yeah, huge misplay from him. We grab back the Dialk. I set the DD Warrior Lady. He draws, so we're in the top decking situation, but we have the first negate, and we have the stronger monster, and we have the initiative. So even though we're in this like top deck war situation, not only does our deck top deck better than his, but we have, we're gonna have 5 fairies. We basically just don't want to draw a Christia here. Basically just don't want to draw a Christia. He draws Diva, and I'm like, fuck. Okay, so do I wait for the Synchro to happen? But then he gets the Goblin Zombie Search, which I don't want him to get. So I think it's best here to just Herald, negate the Diva. And the reason it's also good is because then it leaves the Divas in deck, which are bad draws for him in this top decking situation. So I am forced to use the Herald, but we still have the initiative. He takes 500 here. We draw for turn, it's Nova Summoner, and I'm like, okay, we're dead to Book of Life. No matter what happens, we're dead to Book of Life. No matter what happens, we're dead to Call of the Haunted. So because we're dead to those cards no matter what, there's no difference between summoning and setting the Nova Summoner here. There's no way he can put 2,000 or 600 damage over Nova Summoner with just one card unless he mains Illblood and he top decks Pyramid Turtle, which we don't know at this point. We don't know that he's playing the Ultimate Offering. I mean, we can assume he is because we've seen the Road, but it's very likely that another zombie deck could just be playing Road. Like, that's not the most unlikely thing. So we don't know for sure yet if he's playing the Offerings or a Pyramid Turtle into Nova Summoner. And Goblin Zombie, we just want to get that guy banished. We don't want to give him the luxury of a search. So I'm going to go DD Warrior Lady, banish his guy for 400 damage. And also, we're starting to close this game out. We need to turn the corner from us being the ones behind to putting him in the same position that we're in. So we attack for 1400. We get in that damage. He draws a dead back row. I draw Dimensional Alchemist. Literally the best card in the deck to draw when your opponent has back row, because if I summon it, I can just play belligerently into sweepers. So I summon it, I activate, I banish the top card, I attack. It's Thunder King, which is amazing, increasing my toolbox options. I attack for 1800, I attack for 1400, and now we're in the same position where he's dead to any attack. He has to top deck. I'm dead to a couple top decks, but he also can't top deck Brain Control as well. So this cuts off a lot from the opponent here. Cuts off a lot. Yeah. Anyway, pass the turn. He goes for his Legacy, and so now I know he's on the Ultimate Offering build because that build plays Legacy. Even though I know Beast Mode was playing Legacies without Offering, I think this card is quite bad without Offering because you just draw into your Goblin Zombie targets and you just have a shitload of normal summons in your hand. I don't think this card is very good without Offering, but with Offering, I think this card is very, very good. Anyway, he sets a back row and then passes the turn. I activate Dialk, and this is, just amazing. I'm able to attack freely into Mirror Force. He has Mirror Force. I'm like, if it's Deep Prison, I win. If it's not Deep Prison, I get back up my best card, and I can just go from there. I add back DD Warrior Lady because I'm like, I don't want him to have specifically Mizuki. So if he summons Mizuki, I don't want to deal with that. I want him to run into DD Warrior Lady, and I want to be able to banish his Mizuki straight away. So I set the DD Warrior Lady. I pass the turn. He sets 2 back row. Now, the new card he set was the card he set first. That's the card I think is the live card. This card I think is a bluff, which, as you can see, it is. So I draw for turn. I pick up Card Trooper, or I had Card Trooper. I pick up Herald, and I'm like, all right, Force is gone. If he torrentials, like, fuck it. But I think the set card is a bluff, and he has 1 top deck to find torrential. What are the chances? 1 in 24. I'm going to mill 3. I'm going to attack with both and just see where it goes, and we end up winning. So, yeah, very, very challenging game there. I think the Starlight Road definitely got us very good, but I think we made the plays we needed to make in order to win. And because our top decks, albeit pretty good, we were able to draw the cards we needed to draw in order to close that game out. A lot of monsters means in top decking situations, you're going to be hitting your threats. Your opponent's going to need to answer them, and if they don't, then that's how it goes. This game, we have a pretty good opening, but we end up getting Dust Shooted, so that's kind of tough. He sets Reaper. He activates Dust Shoot here. One thing I like about Legacy of Yatagarasu is it does insulate your hand a little bit against turn 1 Dust Shoot. It actually conceals information. It makes things feel pretty good. So from this Dust Shoot taking the Warrior Lady, we're able to get a lot of information. So we know, number 1, he doesn't care about the Thunder King. Thunder King is public enemy number 1 against zombies if they have Goblin Zombie or Sangin. So if he has one of those 2 cards, then obviously he's taking Thunder King. If he doesn't have one of those 2 cards, then he doesn't care about Thunder King. And the cards that don't care about Thunder King are like Mystic Tomato, Pyramid Turtle, Spirit Reaper. So now I know what his set monster is, basically. I know it's one of those, or it's one of those, basically, or it's another card that he set, like Mizuki or something. It's a card that doesn't care about Thunder King, basically. So he doesn't have Goblin Zombie, he doesn't have Sangin, or his back row is Bottomless or Torrential. But in that case, I would just Typhoon and then run it over with Thunder King, so because he sees the Typhoon, he knows that. He knows that I can clear his back row and run over his monster. It's 100% confirmed that it's not Goblin Zombie or Sangan. So he's going to take the DD Warrior Lady, tells me what his set monster is, and then it also kind of tells me what his back row is too. Because his back row is, well, it doesn't really tell me because we have Typhoon. So yeah, I mean, he takes the Warrior Lady. So now because we know he's on Legacy, we know he's on Offerings, we know he's probably on Light Mirror, we've got to hold the Typhoon. We've got to hold it. So I just set the Raikou, I set 2 back row, and I pass. He sacks his Spirit Reaper here for Caius, which does kind of own us. It's a 1-for-1. He trades the Reaper for the Raikou, but yeah. This is one of those instances where I could have used the Legacy to find Herald in the draw step, but I figured if the set monster walls out Thunder King, then it's okay to trade the set monster with my set monster because that's basically what was going to happen anyway. Like, I was going to Raikou pop this anyway. Now I can trade the Honest with the Caius, and I don't have to burn my Legacy just yet. That being said, in the draw phase, I should have used the Legacy. I think it was a misplay because having the option to Herald in the case that I drew it is much better than not. So I think that I should have definitely used it. Plus he knows about it, so there's really no reason to wait on it. Anyway, he attacks me for 2,400. That is another thing that I don't love. On the attack declaration, I decide to go for Legacy. If I draw into Gores, I can Typhoon his other back row, and then I can drop the Gores. I Legacy, I draw into Herald, and I'm like, definitely should have done something. Definitely should have used it earlier on. Just to have the option to Herald, because there are some circumstances where I would have wanted to have Herald there. End phase, I Typhoon his new set, because I figured his old set was a Legacy because he set an additional card into it, and I didn't want to hit something chainable with my Typhoon. That being said, this is a misplay. I should have waited for the Light Mirror to get flipped, and it cost me this game. So, yeah, unfortunate. I summon Thunder King. I set back row. I pass. Can't really attack into Deep Prison. He attacks, forces the Honest. He takes 1900, passes the turn, and then I make another critical misplay. So misplay number 1 was burning the Typhoon ASAP. Shouldn't have done that. Should have remembered about how this deck loses. And then this is misplay number 2. I set and I pass. It doesn't happen quite yet. He goes Brain Control. I Chain Book. I don't want him to kill my Thunder King. It also confirms his hand is Plague or Diva, which, as you can see, is the case. Yeah, it confirms, because if he had Caius, he would have sacked his Caius for it on the previous turn to out our Thunder King. So it has to be Diva, basically, or Plague. We draw a Bottomless Trap Hole, and I flip the Thunder King, and he lets it happen, and this is misplay number 2. I attack, I think. Yeah, I attack. This is a really bad play, because I need this Thunder King in play to just, like, hold the position until I have the guaranteed win. If I just sit on this Thunder King, there's no way I can really lose the game, because he can't, like, get the Goblin Zombie searches. Like, he can't really get going when Thunder King's in play. So, yeah, really big choke attacking here. I didn't need to do this. I'm in the winning position. My deck has inevitability. I don't need to play into Deep Prison until I have the Sweeper. It was pretty fucking stupid of me, actually, to attack here. And yeah, I chain Call of the Haunted to play around Torrential to grab Honest. I'm like, okay, at the very least, I can hit for 1100. He's going to Light Mirror me in the battle phase, and I'm like, I should have held the fucking Typhoon. I summon Herald of Orange. I make Flamvel Urukizis because I'm like, okay, as long as I can hold off with this Urukizis, as long as he doesn't draw Brain Control, Mind Control, that kind of thing, or as long as he doesn't have whatever, then I'm actually good to go here. We know his last card in hand's a Tuner, so he can't really come back from just one card in hand and no monsters in play, right? Right? Wrong. He normal summons Sangan and he flips Ultimate Offering, and this is why this card is so fucking gross in this deck. It just makes it so that you can play with nothing in play. Yeah, we end up getting owned here, like, pretty hard. Summon the Diva, special summon out the Diva, Synchro into Catastor. We can't bottomless this. We have to wait for the 6-star because he's going to grab with Goblin Zombie. He could grab Bryonic and just, like, end our shit. So, not grab Bryonic, make Bryonic or Yugioh and end our shit. So we have to save the bottomless for the 6-star. He synchros into the 6-star. He uses Goblin Zombie. We chain bottomless, but he's able to search Zombie Master, and he's able to just deal too much damage to us. And there's nothing we can draw to out this. Light Mirror shuts off, like, even, like, crash something, whatever. We have no cards in hand for Herald. Christia's nowhere near live. We can't really stop these two monsters. Catastor when Light Mirror's up with, like, DD Warrior Lady set or something like that. So, yeah, we just lose. This is the card you lose to in this matchup. I forgot to show you guys how I'm siding, but I'll show it before game 3. Yeah, we draw Dialk. I'm like, I'm not even going to show him anymore because we just lose. So yeah, this is how I sided going into game 3. I sided out 1 Nova, 1 Dialk, 1 Honest, 1 Christia, 1 Freed, 1 Card Trooper, 1 Brain Control, 1 Return, double Legacy, and I brought in double Banisher, double Breaker, Kaiku, triple Dust, Compulsory, and Royal Oppression. And I think this is how you have to side versus this heavy back row Ultimate Offering style deck. Number 1, yes, Breaker does suck into Legacy. Number 2, yes, Dust Tornado does suck into Legacy. But if you hold them until they have the card face up that you need to pop, then they become very good. Number 2, why are you siding out so many fairies, especially good cards like Honest? Honest doesn't really get a lot of mileage in this matchup. Yes, it's one of your few outs to Revive King Hot Ace, but post board, we have a lot of outs that guy anyway. We have double Compulsory, double Bottomless, Torrential, triple Book. We have, of course, like Banisher making it hard for them to even really summon it. We have ways to come back from it in like Christia. DD Orley doesn't really work. We have Thunder King to negate it, etc. So it's not the hardest card to deal with already. And Honest is like the worst of our answers because it basically requires us to get an attack through a bunch of like deep prisons and shit. So that's why I side out 1 Honest. And Honest isn't great against their A plan, which is just sit on a dude, like sit on a Pyramid Turtle or a Spear Reaper or whatever. Honest doesn't do anything in those game states. I've been thinking about siding out both Honest, but I think it's important to still have one. Herald of Orange Light's obviously the best card. You have to keep all 3. Dialk is one of the better cards, but again, specifically this list, they're going to be having the Light Mirrors and stuff, and he's like the weakest card into Light Mirror. So you got to side one out. The Battle Recruiters are pretty bad in this matchup. You need to keep at least 4 for the Christia Crash lines, but yeah, they're pretty bad. I side out a Christia because we're just going lower on Fairies and Recruiters so it can brick. And on top of that, we're also siding in Royal Oppression and Banisher. And if one of these guys sticks, like we're already winning anyway. We don't need like that additional layer of floodgates. It's harder to get Christie alive when you have less of these like value fairies and more of these like stun monsters. So that's why we side one out. Freed doesn't have a lot of great targets. He is an out to resolve Revive King, but if it's gotten to that point, you're already super far behind. So it's important to side him out. We don't really need the Grave Control with only 2 Christias as well. We side out Card Trooper because, again, doesn't really play that well into their monsters, their set monsters. And then on top of that, he doesn't do well into Revive King. We side out Brain Control because they set a lot of monsters. And also there's not really a lot of great conversions outside of like literally Tune with Herald or Sack for Christia. And we're siding out one of our conversions. So I think it's like one of the worst cards. Plus you have to pay life points to use it. Same thing with Return. You have to pay life points to use it. While it did win us game 1, we're siding down on Dialks, and the way we're actually going to win this game is to actually lock them out with our stun monsters and keep the back row clear. That's how you win game 2 and 3 versus zombies. And then we side out the legacies because they're functionally filler anyway. So yeah, back to the game. We do go first for game 3. Our opening hand has that 1 Honest, and you can see it's pretty bad in this matchup, but having the 1 is okay. It's at least a fairy to pitch for Herald, so I can't really complain. I open up with these 4 back row, and I like to set Dust Shoot and Dust Tornado first. Yes, if he does have Reaper, he can poke us. That does suck, but... Oh, I set Honest too, actually. Never mind. Oh, yeah, I do set the Honest too. This makes sense. I just don't want to get poked by Reaper. That's why I do it. I was like, yeah, why would I not do this? Yeah. Anyway, I do set the Honest. I Dust Shoot, and so we get to see his hand. And his hand has a lot of really, really good cards in it. Honestly, like a lot of these cards can piece together a win. That being said, they're a little bit disjointed once we take out the tomato. So for me, yes, he does have a tuner. He does have non-tuners, right? But all of these take normal summons outside of Mizuki, but he can't really get the Mizuki in the graveyard very effectively because the Zombie Master won't have a target unless the Mystic Tomato resolves. So taking away the Mystic Tomato takes away his engine access. He just has 4 normal summons. One of them is a Tribute summon and a Gemini, so it's like a triple normal summon card. And then he has Bottomless Trap Hole, which does fuck all versus me post board. So I'm actually loving seeing this hand because this is a very weak hand from him after we take this tomato. So yeah, we take the tomato. And you can see, this hand doesn't really do anything. Doesn't do anything at Honest. If he manages to go for a synchro play, I can just book the synchro, run it over. Easy clap. Anyway, he goes Zombie Master, attacking to Honest. He takes 200, he sets his Bottomless. And that's perfect because now I know that set card is Bottomless. And I'm going to learn from my mistake in game 2. And I'm never going to Dust Tornado that unless I absolutely have to. And here I draw Royal Oppression. I'm like, I'm killing it. I'm killing it. I can't possibly lose. I bounce my Honest, I reset it, I set the book in case he summons Illblood, I set the Royal Oppression. I actually think it was a misplay for him to not normal summon Mizuki, because if he normal summons Mizuki, he can tribute it for Illblood on the next turn and not feel super bad about that, because that will at least get his Mizuki in the grave. Him having Zombie Master in play didn't set him up very well for the next turn. I actually think it was a misplay for him to summon that and not Mizuki, but maybe he wanted to trade this with a potential Warrior Lady. I don't really know. Anyway, he attacks into the set monster. Alternatively, or not just alternatively, but in general, I also don't think attacking here is good. I just think that him attacking with the Zombie Master these last 2 turns is a bad play. You're giving me access to my engine. You're attacking into a potential Shining Angel. Like, what? Why would you want to give me access to tutors? I don't really understand that. There's no real reason for you to attack here. You want to wait till you have access to something good before you start attacking. He attacks into our Honest. He sets a monster and he passes. So no new back row tells me he didn't draw back row. Set monster tells me he drew a Recruiter or a Goblin Zombie or a Spirit Reaper. So I'm like, okay, I know what his draw was. I know his full 6 cards still. I can bounce the Honest. I can reset it. I can set the Call of the Haunted. And the reason I set the 4th card here is because I know he drew a Recruiter. I know he didn't draw Heavy Storm. I probably would have just shotgunned the Heavy Storm last turn had he had it. And then on top of that, I want to be able to Herald the first thing that activates so that I can call out Christia before I have to flip my own Royal Oppression. That's my game plan, basically. Herald first, call second, Oppression third, and those are the layers I want to go through in that order. He sets Goblin Zombie, another Recruiter, so I'm like, okay, I know what's up here. We draw Breaker, and I'm like, okay, I know the back row's bottomless, and that kind of fucks with my game plan. It fucks with my Breaker, it fucks with my Christia, it fucks with my Call of the Haunted shit, so I think it's time. I think it's time to get a little aggressive. I don't want him to have too many cards in play. I don't have enough pieces of defense to really stop too many normal summon plays. If he has something like a Caius, I might fall apart pretty easily here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to Dust Tornado his back row, and then I'm going to summon Breaker, and I'm just going to try to control the board a little bit more. Try to keep his normal summons out, because again, his hand is very normal summon heavy. I don't want to give him a chance to get a zombie monster in the graveyard so he can pitch that Mizuki and like have a faster play. So yeah, I take out the Zombie Master with the Breaker. This also threatens any new back row that he does end up setting. He draws Caius, he goes for the Caius, and this plays perfectly into my game plan. So Goblin Zombie has to be Chainlink 1 because of the way it's ruled in Edison format. So this is Chainlink 1, Caius is Chainlink 2. I ask for his target first. Always ask for the target first, because you never know. He might target the book, and it might save me needing to use my Herald. But I know now that he's drawn Recruiter, Caius. I know the rest of his hand is Mizuki, Deep Sea Diva, Illblood. Yes, there is a chance his set monster is Mizuki, but I highly doubt it because he had Zombie Master in play. So there's a very low chance he would want to set the best discard for Zombie Master in his hand. So he sacks for Caius. He targets the Honest. We pitch Herald to negate this. He forgets to activate his Goblin Zombie. I said, think on Resolution of Goblin Zombie. He didn't activate it. And I was like, okay, maybe he's out of targets. And I was like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Unless his set card's Goblin Zombie, or that just doesn't make any sense. Like, there's no way he could not have target here. But he remembers it here on this turn. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's an easily reversible game state. He goes and searches a second Goblin Zombie. Probably should have searched a Plague. But, yeah. Anyway, we Call of the Haunted Christia, and that's just going to be it. I mean, like, he can't really come back from this. Like, his hand is just a fuckload of normal summons, and we have, like, literally Egyptian god cards in play. Like, you can't beat this. Breaker attacks over because Breaker gets over everything and Christia locks out everything. We attack for 3,900. Bounce Honest. Pass the turn. He sets return. Passes the turn. His deck just does nothing now. Like, his deck just can't beat this. Even with Heavy Storm, we can, like, book our own Christia, and he has to, like, somehow play normal summons into me flip summoning a Christia somehow. Like, he just can't play it. He would need, like, Brain Control plus a bunch of other stuff, and even then we have Book of Moon to help secure our position. So that's exactly why we side the way we side in this matchup. I think this is like one of the best ways to side in. I have a shitload of cards for this matchup as it stands, but on top of that, like, I think that this is just the best game plan. Just control the back row. You pretty much invalidate all of their monsters anyway because your monsters are just better. So yeah, that's pretty much it. They have to synchro to do anything, and the second they synchro or Caius, you herald them. And it's just like, what can they ever do? Christia outclasses the whole deck. Summon the Honest again, and he concedes. I mill my whole deck here to remember what I sided because I didn't take a screenshot at the time. So that was the match I wanted to show you guys. I do think the Fairy deck is really good, but I think it's really hard. As you could see, we lost game 2 pretty hard because we fumbled the bag with that Typhoon and Thunder King. And those are, like, honestly, like, I consider myself to be, like, a decent player. I'm not, like, the best player, but I'm definitely not, like, a scrub. You know what I mean? And, like, I'm making, like, little misplays that are, like, costing me games. And it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating, but you just gotta say it's okay. I'll do better in game 3. Untilt yourself and like move on. That being said, I want to cover one more game, and this is a special game. This is a tournament replay that was posted in edisonformat.com. This is between Sherlock and a True Hero. So I wanted to cover this. Sherlock's playing Fairies, and a True Hero is playing Diva Hero like he always does. So yeah, they start off. Sherlock loses the die roll. Oh, I should show both. And a True Hero opens up with a really good hand. I mean, he just has like Future Fusion and Diva, which is like one of the strongest plays in the deck. He's able to send Treeborn plus Mally, he banishes Mally, he specials Mally, and he normal summons Deep Sea Diva, makes Stardust plus Gilman, and then sets My Crush and passes the turn. So this is kind of like a dual puzzle moment, after he Gold Tarks for Miracle as well. This is kind of a dual puzzle moment. Fuck, I fucking fucked it up. This is a misplay. I was gonna dual puzzle you guys, like, oh, leave in the comments what you should do here. But yeah, this is how to not use Torrential Tribute 101. So I want to talk about this opening play, and this is such an innocuous thing. Like, it's something that a lot of players would not think through, or a lot of players would not fully understand why this play is so bad. You think, oh, I have Torrential. If he wants to summon further, he's going to be forced to summon further with the Future Fusion, right? I have Herald to negate the Stardust when I go for the Torrential. How can I lose this game, right? But you know he's getting Miracle in 2 turns, so he has at least one extender to play through the Torrential. And he knows if you set the Torrential here, you're going to take at least 4,200. So the only play you can make... I'm going to refresh this so we can get back to the position so you guys can see it. Yeah, fast forward. And yeah. Basically, what I want to talk about is how tiny misplays can cost you not only game 1, but game 2 as well. This is like one of the most punishing misplays I think I've ever seen. It's like, and it's so innocuous too. It's not like a misplay that like you think like, oh, I should have done this, It's like really hard to even like, I don't want to say notice that this is a misplay, but he posted this in the thing and like 5 people replied to it and none of them pointed this out because it's like such a small thing, but it's such a rough misplay. So he draws for turn, right? He draws for turn, and you have a couple options, right? You have a couple options. You got to deal with these cards. You got to deal with them somehow. The best play here, I will tell you the best play in a second, but the worst play here is set Torrential, set Typhoon. That is the worst play because A, it shuts off you from playing a monster next turn if he doesn't play a monster himself. B, it shuts off your own Heavy Storm next turn. Even if he does play a monster, you would have to Heavy Storm away your Typhoon. C, it tells your hand way too much. It says way too much about your hand. And then D, it tells your opponent what you're playing because, this is functionally a concession if you set the Torrential Tribute and the Mystical Space Typhoon here. So you're basically forcing to play out a game that you've guaranteedly lost based off of known information. Let's talk this through. So first things first, you know that he doesn't have to summon another monster next turn. Next turn is not the turn Absolute Zero comes off Future Fusion. So he doesn't have to summon another monster. He can just attack you for 4,200. And if you don't commit to the board right now, you will lose 4,200 life points, which is a shit ton of damage. Then, on top of that, Absolute Zero's coming the turn after that. So you've taken 4,200. You know at least one Absolute Zero's coming. And then you know a second Absolute Zero could potentially come after that with this Miracle Fusion. After you've already taken 4,200, they summon the next Absolute Zero off the Future Fusion. You would be forced to Torrential that, right? You would be forced to Torrential that. So because you're forced to Torrential that Absolute Zero after taking 4,200, you can't stop the next Absolute Zero. So this Miracle Fusion plus any one normal summon just beats you outright with the cards that you have in your hand. On top of that, you can't commit monsters for the next 2 turns because you've set this Torrential Tribute. So it sets you back really, really far. So the only play you can make here is actually Heavy Storm. You have to activate Heavy Storm. They negate with Stardust. You negate with Herald. That's the only play you can make here because it takes the pressure off of you, A, and then B, it clears that potential Future Fusion. So now his only extension is Miracle Fusion that gets through your Honest. And then once he goes for that only extension that can get through your set Honest, you go for Torrential, and you've completely neutralized the game state, and you've stabilized at 8,000, and you top decking is much better than this deck top decking. I'll say that much, especially once one Miracle is gone, especially once the Diva Gilman play is off the table, especially, etc., etc., etc. You get where I'm going with this. Their top decks are, generally speaking, worse than yours. So once you get to the same, like, sort of low resource game state, Fairies versus Diva Hero, you can just outclass them with your top decks. You have Christia, you have Shining Angel, you have hella shit that just, like, makes it really difficult for them to play in low resource situations. So the only play you can make here is Heavy Storm, negate with Herald. And it may seem innocuous, right? It may seem like, oh, but if they summon, I can get even more advantage with Torrential plus Herald. No, not really, because they don't have to summon. They don't have to play into your Torrential. And a good player will never play into your Torrential here. And if you set torrential, that means you've committed to playing this game out, which means you are telling your opponent what deck you're on. So you worsen your chances for game 2 as well. So it's a misplay that not only guaranteedly loses you the game to any normal summon in hand based off the information you have after turn 1, but it fucking makes your game 2 chances much worse because he knows what to side against you. So it's a misplay that costs you 2 full games. That's how punishing this is. And it's like just one tiny little thing. It's like one thing that like you would hardly think about if you're like, I would say like just an average player. I mean, like I myself consider myself an average player, and this is a mistake that on some days I might make. I might be guilty of making a mistake like this, like on some days. And it's just such a punishing misplay. And this is why Fairy's just, it's a frustrating deck to play sometimes. I'm gonna be honest, it's frustrating to play. He sets 2, and then yeah, he basically concedes this game by setting 2. You'll see how it plays out. On this turn, doesn't have to attack. He just or doesn't have to summon. He just attacks for 42. And now it's like, what do you do? What do you do? You can't do anything. You can't do anything. You can't Typhoon here. You shut off your own Heavy Storm. Like, you're just fucked here. You're just actually fucked. Like, you can't do anything. You just die to the absolute 0 Miracle Fusion that's happening next turn. You have to take 42. Oh, he doesn't attack with the Stardust. I mean, he should have attacked with the Stardust. I mean, it's really silly not to. You have the return. I think that's a misplay on a true hero's part. He doesn't really know how to press his position here. But, I mean, you should always attack with the Stardust here. There's literally no reason not to. The thinking bluff shouldn't have worked because you have return. It's just silly. Next turn, you're getting absolute 0 Miracle Fusion. You have Brain Control coming. Just put him on have it or lose. That's how I see it, at least. There's a higher chance that it's bottomless, torrential, Mirror Force than it is Deep Prison. So definitely attack with the Stardust there. Especially because you don't know what Sherlock is playing. So whatever. You get the idea. Anyway, Sherlock picks up DD Warrior Lady. So that would have been the key stabilizing card. After you Heavy Storm on the last turn, of course. You Heavy Storm, you Herald the Stardust. You have to set both Typhoon and Torrential and set your Honest. You want to set both to blur Typhoons and Caiuses. And then whatever extension your opponent goes for, you can then Torrential 2 for 2 and then be completely stable. And you'd be drawing DD Warrior Lady off the top, which would keep your stable position even more stable. So yeah, you would actually be crushing had he made that play. He would actually just be in such a great spot. Obviously, return is a consideration, but like, I mean, you know, that's just the way the game goes. Sometimes you lose to bombs, but yeah. He draws enemy controller for turn. That would have been interesting using the Treeborn Frog. The Absolute 0 gets summoned here. Here comes that Torrential. Here comes the Stardust Negate. Here comes the Herald Negate. He's going to lose all his monsters, but he gets the Miracle Fusion. It's just like, what do you do? He just miracles, and like now his return is like it's just like fucking, it's Jover. It's honestly Jover. Yeah, I don't know why a true hero didn't attack with the Stardust last turn and set the return. Like, that would have just been easy win, but yeah, I don't know. Here comes 2,500. Passes the turn. He would have been at 1,300 here. Again, any normal summon would have done it. The enemy controller would have been lethal. The Brain Control coming would have been lethal. So yeah, definitely had to use that Heavy Storm. Died with Heavy Storm in hand, of course. Here comes set DD Warrior Lady. Honestly, probably should have... I'm not even sure. Probably should have heavied. Yeah, probably should have just heavied. Because you lose to like Wind Blast, you lose to Return, you lose to Call of the Haunted. You lose to so many cards in the back row here that you just have to take the 2 for 2 on the back row. Yeah. You lose to Solemn as well. So yeah, definitely a mistake. Blur happens, but yeah, no, this game is like 16 times over. This happens and then big dark end moves. Yep. A true hero says, yeah, I opened broken. That was good Herald by you. But honestly, I think Sherlock could have played through it. I think he could have played through it had he Heavy Stormed at the right time. Had he had the Torrential for the follow-up. And had he been at 8,000, he would have had like plenty of extra turns to like draw out of that situation. Yeah, he would have had to face down enemy controller, Brain Control. But being at 8,000, those cards are not that scary without a conversion. And the return, yeah, that would be scary. The return would definitely be scary. But again, like you have the Typhoon, right? So you can face Typhoon the return. So I feel like that whole situation was very manageable. The most broken possible opening can be dealt with Varys. And I don't really want to watch game 2 because I don't feel like it. But you guys can watch it in the EdisonFormat.com Discord server. Check that out. Definitely subscribe. We're on our way to 10K. And check out the Crow's Nest. Help them get to 1K. And yeah, check out the members only video as well if you want to see some Dragons gameplay. I know a lot of people have been asking for it, and I got to paywall it because you don't get that kind of information free. You get the banger fairy replays, you get the banger fairy videos, talking through the misplays, talking through the subtle difficulties of this deck. But you gotta watch the banger dragon vid. If $2.99 a month, you guys can afford that. Let's be real. You're buying fucking Black Brute Dragos for $40. You can afford $2.99 a month for some exclusive content. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.